Everybody, welcome back. I want to talk today about how to get to know yourself through photography. So for me, it's been 34 years in running now. It's been a great run. I've learned a whole lot. So for the last couple of years or so, I've had a memento mori approach in my photography. Go out there and shoot everything like it's your last day on the planet pretty much. Because you never know when you can go out with your boots on, so to speak. And so when you're talking about this stuff, it comes to mind on how to actually shoot it, because sometimes we have to get over things like fear. Sometimes we have to go ahead and find people to shoot. Sometimes there's just nothing to shoot. So how do you get inspired when there's nothing to shoot? So today I want to share with you what I've learned in 34 years and what I'd tell myself if I was going to do it all over again. So the first thing is all about personal growth for me. There's a lot of times I've met a lot of cool people that I never thought I'd meet just by photography. You insert yourself into the world, and the world carves a niche, as one of my professors used to say to me back in the day. I've traveled to so many different places and met so many cool people. I met famous people, non-famous people, etc. And at the end of the day, you just realize that you do what you love with the camera. And so it doesn't matter if you shoot famous people. It doesn't matter if you shoot non-famous people. You treat everything with what it is and with everything with respect as well. And so for me, for personal growth, I've learned a lot of different things. Like I've learned things outside of the camera, which is important to me. Like I do drawing, painting, woodworking, I make knives, all sorts of cool stuff. And so getting outside of photography is one of the big things in personal growth for me. You learn a lot about yourself. And that's what I'm going for today, is to tell you how you're going to learn a lot in your journey if you're just starting out, or even if you've been doing this for a very, very long time. Now, another thing that's been prevalent to me is keeping sketchbooks and journals as I go, because keeping a track record of like what you do is really cool. You can keep a field journal in your jacket or your pocket. Keep it in a journal every day. Just do a little bit of writing in the morning when you wake up with your coffee, or when you go into bed at night. That works as well, to go ahead and just kind of unwind and write about what you saw for the day. Write about what you're going to shoot tomorrow, things like that lead to ideas that you're going to have for the future. The other thing that comes up with journaling, as my wife said to me, like our children are going to read your journals one day, and they're going to get to know you better from your journals, from your writing, and from your photography. So that's been a personal exploration for me, where I think it's really important to do journaling and photography together. The other thing is a lot of skill enhancement. So there's a lot of different things that I've picked up in photography that I never knew I'd need. Like building a set, for example. When you're doing commercial work like I was in New York City, you learn different things that you never imagined that you would need in your life. So figuring out how to actually construct a set, or for example, how to actually get different props, or how to go ahead and actually coordinate schedules, how to go ahead and manage money, for example, and finances. All these things pop up when you're a photographer. You never thought that this would be part of your journey, but it is. And what I would advise to anybody that's starting out or kind of going along with your journey is to embrace this stuff. You're going to need it sooner or later, so you might as well embrace it now. Another big thing that's come up along the path for me is stress relief. There's a lot of times that I get done teaching in New York City or wherever I'm at in the world, and I go out on the streets just on an adventure simply with the camera, just to see what the world looked like in pictures, as Gary Winogrand used to say. And so you wouldn't believe how a simple walk and taking pictures of whatever you're drawn to can do stress relief for you. Try it. Check it out. See how it goes. Another big thing I've learned over the years is portfolio development. It's always evolving. You think you've got it when you first try to create a portfolio, but you're always going to update it. You're always going to fix it. You're always going to put something new in it. You're going to develop new personal projects. You're going to go ahead and develop new styles. You're going to disband some of your old styles along the way as well. I've certainly looked back at things and I'm like, oh dear God, why did I photograph it that way? But when you get into it, portfolio development, it's all about the journey is a big tip I'd share with you. And when you're in the journey, go ahead and get feedback too. Find people that will be your mentor. You can go ahead and find somebody to give you feedback, like a family member, friend, or whomever. Get some feedback, it goes a long way. Now, a big thing I'm going to tell you about today is publishing your dreams. If you're not proud of it, nobody's going to be proud of it, is my advice to you. And so when you get into your dreams, you're going to know what this is before anybody knows about it. You can write it down in your journal, as I mentioned. You can also go ahead and document it in your computer. You can go ahead and say like a mood board if you go over to Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook or something like that. Create a supply of images that feed you the inspiration that you need. And then once you get that inspiration, act upon it. There's a lot of people that dream, but there's not a lot of people that do. I would advise do. Another thing that's popped up for me over the years is the entrepreneurial spirit. I've always had a dream to be an entrepreneur since I was young. When I was back in high school, I'll tell you a funny story. I was in print shop. I remember I was creating business cards when I should have been doing other homework, and I was coming up with these random company names. I had everything from a lawn mowing business to like a computer supply store and everything that you could dream of. And as I made these different fake businesses, I always dreamed of them, but I never actually created them. It was not until much years later that I basically got into business and I learned how to actually develop a business for myself. If you're not fundamentally sound in business, so to speak, again, seek out a mentor, somebody that can help you to start a business because it is a daunting task at first until you learn the ropes of the trade. Another one that's come up for me over the years is networking opportunities. Always talk to anyone that you can about your art or your photography. The reason I say this is you never know who you're going to meet that can introduce you to someone else that will actually give you a connection that's meaningful to your path. And so as you talk to people, you'll find different ways to go ahead and introduce yourself, your work, and anything that means something to you. And when you're passionate about something and you introduce it to someone, they are passionate about it also, and the world finds a way to get it out there. And so talk to people, network, make friends, keep contacts, get email addresses, get phone numbers, all that good stuff. You never know when you're going to need it. Another big one that's come up for me is technical mastery. And so everybody always thinks that they need to learn how to shoot in manual mode in the camera. And so when you're shooting in manual mode, sure, you need to know what your f-stop, shutter speed, ISO, and white balance are doing. It can be daunting at first because you see a lot of numbers and you get confused by the numbers and you don't know what they're actually doing. Now, to a lot of my students, I've advised to start slow, learn one setting before you learn the others. And then as you build up, all of a sudden you're mastering it. I compare it to like the Disney Fantasia movie from back in the day when Mickey Mouse comes up to the podium. He taps the podium, he directs the wand one way, and all of a sudden you hear some oboes or something like that. He directs the wand the other way, and maybe you hear some strings. Then he directs the wand head on, and all of a sudden you hear drums. And all of a sudden when you raise your hands, you hear the whole band. That is manual mode in photography and technical mastery. When you learn this stuff, my advice to you is don't get too trapped in it because it can get you lost in photography. For many years, I was too obsessed with the technical stuff and I wasn't actually in the feel of it. Now, my friend David Allen Harvey has always said, shoot how it feels, not how it looks. That is some sound advice. And I'll just mention real quick, do master your camera, understand where the buttons and the settings are, but then feel how to actually respond to the setting that you're photographing. Trust your head, trust your heart, and trust your gut, and you'll do no wrong. Another big one that's come up for me is accountability. And so actually having someone to hold me responsible to go out there and shoot every day. There's days that I wanted to lay in bed all day and just watch the rain go by the window. There's been days that I don't feel like photographing, to be honest. It's surprising because I talk about photography all the time, and you'd think that I'd photograph every second of every day. It's not true, to be honest. There's been a long times where I've gone without actually touching the camera. I went 2 years during the COVID lockdowns without actually touching the camera too much until I started doing other things. I taught myself woodworking and knife making in my grandpa's old shop, and then all of a sudden I needed to make photographs. So what do? You dust the camera off, you start to make photographs again, and you get back on the horse. Now, keeping accountable, you can do this with a mentor, you could do this with a friend, you could go ahead and do this with a family member. Somebody will check in with you and ask you how your photography is going. When you do this, just make sure that you do this every single day to keep accountable. Or at least give yourself a schedule so that you get up every day, make a couple images with your coffee, and then you're looking back at them and you're like, oh, that's nothing, I shot my kitchen. Well, there's a lot of things in your kitchen that could teach you about photography, like lighting, there's angles, there's lines, there's symmetry, there's a lot of different things that you could do. Don't discount shooting in the house because you can learn a lot when you don't have time to go on adventures. Now, another big thing that's come up for me is exclusive access to things. You wouldn't dream of places I've talked myself into just because I have a camera. I'll tell you how in New York City I met a lot of rock stars just by going down the Lower East Side, going to Arlene's Grocery, walking in on different shows. You'll never dream of who shows up, when they show up, and how they show up. And then as you start to meet people, they give you access to different places and different things simply by asking. Don't be afraid to ask because it can open doors you have not dreamed of yet. Now, a couple final thoughts to wrap up for today. I'm not going to lie that 34 years of doing this has been easy, so to speak. It's been a lot of trial and error, in fact. And as you get into trial and error, I'm going to teach you don't be afraid of it. Experiment a whole lot. You're going to fail 90% of the time and you're going to win about 10% of the time. You have to try in order to actually win. And so if you don't try, the shots that we regret are the ones that we didn't take. You got to keep going. You got to keep trying. You got to keep doing. You got to keep experimenting. You got to keep passionate. How do you keep passionate? You have adventures. You go out there and try to shoot something. When I was uninspired, when I was in New York, for example, I used to just pick a direction. I'd go out walking. I'd get lost in neighborhoods. I had no idea where I was at. And I would start making photographs of random things until I found something that looked pretty cool. All of a sudden, I found something that was inspiring and I started making something I was passionate about. And that leads to other adventures, sometimes longer adventures. Sometimes you meet people along the way. And so these are ways that you can kind of pull yourself out of a rut. Back in the day, I did an appearance on Adorama TV, and on Adorama TV, I was talking about how to get out of a creative rut. There's a lot of times that things in life actually kind of come and smack us upside the head, and then we forget to be creative because we're occupied with other things. We have to create and get the poison out, and we have to express ourselves through what we're feeling. Create something on how you feel is my advice to get started with this, because if you create how you feel, maybe somebody else can relate, and then all of a sudden you're feeling a little bit better about it. And I'm not going to lie, at one time in my life, I was doing photography for status and approval. I used to care more about numbers on like Instagram, Facebook, or like different pats on the back for different commercial work I did than I actually did about the work. I'm going to teach you right now, treat all the work that you're ever going to shoot even. And so it doesn't matter if you're shooting for stuff like Condé Nast or Live Nation like I did. It doesn't matter if you shoot your neighbor. It doesn't matter if you shoot your family or if you shoot your friends or whatever and stuff like that. Treat it all even. If you can be even, everybody else is going to go ahead and see your work even as well. If you're all over the map and you're excited only about the famous stuff, you're not going to succeed too much because it's a goal of being consistent in your journey. Consistency is key to be an awesome photographer because you have to actually keep going in order to pursue what you love. And so you gotta find a way to keep consistent with your passions. Now, all these lessons I've shot over the years and I've dreamed of, I'm here to tell you how it is. Thanks for joining me here on YouTube. So I'm going to be posting up different videos on how to do stuff, how to get through stuff, how to go ahead and get over things like fear in photography as I've already done. And I'm going to be showing you work from the new book coming up as well. This is going to be a journey. It might be all over the map, to be honest. I don't know yet, to be honest. This is new territory for me on reviving this YouTube. So I just want to say thanks for being here. If you need any help doing any of this stuff along the way, like I say, I have mentorship programs. You can go over to my website on coffeexcameras.com. And I have anything from a 2-hour lesson, or you can do weekly sessions with me, up to a year-long mentorship that we're rocking over there. I want to help you along the way because there's a lot of different things that I've learned in 34 years that you will not dream of at this point in your life. You might just need a little push in the right direction, and that's what I'm here to do. And so thanks again for joining me. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.